Sharon Hobson with Rhinebeck School of Music, and in this video we're going to talk about the Phrygian mode. So in my quest to find true examples of Phrygian minor in popular music, I found that a lot of the songs that people say are Phrygian are actually Phrygian Dominant, not actual Phrygian minor. So I am going to play through all of the songs that most people would typically call Phrygian and explain why they're not actually Phrygian, they're Phrygian Dominant, or explain how they are sort of a blend of both. So I'm going to first explain the difference theoretically between Phrygian Minor and Phrygian Dominant. So if I'm going to start on this F sharp note on the 2nd fret here, Phrygian is just like the minor scale, right? Except you have this flatted 2. And that is what makes it sound so exotic. So my Phrygian minor is this. I have a root, a flatted 2, a flatted 3, a 4, a 5, a flatted 6, a flatted 7, and an octave. So you can hear, if I play an F sharp minor chord and I play that F sharp Phrygian, it kind of has this Spanish gypsy minor kind of sound, right? So the difference between that and the Phrygian Dominant is the major third that Phrygian Dominant has. So instead of this minor third, we're going to go with a major third, which is A sharp. So we have a root, a flatted 2, a major third, a 4th, a 5th, a minor 6th, a minor 7, and an octave. So that sounds good over like an F sharp major chord or an F sharp dominant 7 chord is where you'll typically hear that. So the true Phrygian minor is a minor mode, it's over a minor chord, has a minor third, and a Phrygian dominant played over a major chord or a dominant 7 chord has a major third. And you'll see why that is so much more popular than Phrygian minor. So now I'm going to talk about chord progressions based on Phrygian minor and Phrygian dominant and the difference between the two. So in Phrygian minor, so remember modally, Phrygian is the 3rd mode based off of a major scale. So if we're talking about F sharp minor, that's the 3 of the key of D, right? So it's really D major starting on F sharp as your home base. That gives you your F sharp Phrygian sound. So the chords I'm going to use, my 1 chord in Phrygian is going to be minor, so I have F sharp minor. My 2 chord is going to be major, so that's G major. My 3 chord is going to be major, so that's A major. My 4 chord is going to be minor, so that's B minor. My C sharp is going to be diminished. The D is going to be major. Then I'm back to a minor chord for the 7. So the 7 chord is minor, that's E minor, and then I'm back to the 1 chord, which is F sharp minor. So now let's compare that to Phrygian dominant chords. So my 1 chord in Phrygian dominant is going to be major. Okay, so I have F sharp major. My 2 chord is going to be major. So right off the bat, I'm sure you've heard this progression before. And you've wondered where in the world are there 2 chords that are major a half step apart in any kind of diatonic chord progression? Well, it happens in Phrygian dominant. So you have these 2 major chords, you know, half step apart, and then you got that nice flamenco sound of the Phrygian dominant. So let's keep going. So we have our 1 chord is major, our 2 chord is major. Now our 3 chord is diminished, A sharp diminished. My 4 chord is minor. My 5 chord is diminished. My 6 chord is a major but an augmented. and then my 7th chord is minor, E minor, and then I'm back to. So the most common chord progression that you hear in popular music is this one. So what am I playing? I'm playing a 4 minor, B minor, to a 2 major, which is G, to a 1 major, which is F sharp, and all that keeps repeating. And if I play my Phrygian Dominant, starting off that 5th tone, it would be the 5th tone of the harmonic minor scale, but we're talking about the Phrygian Dominant. So here's my root, F sharp, and that works like a hand in glove. Okay, so now I'm going to get into some songs that people think are Phrygian, and I'll explain why they're actually Phrygian Dominant or a combination of Phrygian and Phrygian Dominant. So number one example that people always cite for Phrygian is White Rabbit by Jefferson. Were they Jefferson Airplane at that point or Starship? So it's 2 chords, F sharp to G, back and forth. And they're power chords, so you're not really seeing if they're major or minor. They could be either, right? So we have... So that's the vamp, right? And then you start to hear the solo come in. So that actually is Phrygian minor, because here's my root, F sharp, here's my G, my flatted 2, and here's my minor 3rd, which is A, to the 7th. So... Now here's where it goes to Phrygian Dominant. Oh, there's an A sharp there, not an A natural, so that is a major 3rd, not a minor 3rd. So that's Phrygian Dominant. Now, here's the other A sharp that comes in. So that solo is kind of a mixture of Phrygian minor and Phrygian Dominant, more Phrygian Dominant at the end there, putting that A sharp in there. Either one would work. I mean, it really depends. Are you making the 1 chord a minor chord to the 2 major, or are you making them both major chords, which gives it more of a Phrygian Dominant? So since this is a rock song, they're doing more of a power chord approach. There is no major or minor in the chord. So you could actually play either, and what they choose to do is kind of a combo of both. So the next example people cite as being a typical Phrygian song is Remember Tomorrow by Iron Maiden. So now the chord progression could be very Phrygian because you're doing an E minor triad to an F major triad as follows. That note that they put in there, that F sharp, is a major 2nd, not a minor 2nd. So it kind of goes out of the theme of Phrygian and into a natural minor kind of sound. So if I was going to play true Phrygian over that, I would have that F note in there, that E to the F. But they choose to put an F sharp in there, so that makes it kind of out of the realm of Phrygian. However, that chord progression, that 1 minor to the 2 major half step apart, you could definitely play Phrygian over that. So Phrygian is, if it's E Phrygian, is the same as C major, just starting on E. So you could play that over that and it would work very well. So here's another one people always cite as being a Phrygian song, Mr. Man by Alicia Keys. So it's 4 chords throughout. It's A minor, C, F, E or E7, again, we have these two major chords that are a half step apart. So that is a clear sign of Phrygian dominant. So we're talking about E Phrygian dominant here. So that is the scale that would work over this. So that's a very, you'll just hear this so many times, this 4 minor to the 2 major to the 1 major back to the 4 minor. That is just such a clear Phrygian dominant sound. So once again, people cite that as a Phrygian song when it's Phrygian dominant. So here's another one that people cite as being a Phrygian song. It's called War by Joe Satriani. So the main riff is in E. So if this was a true Phrygian minor, you would have this scale. Right? Root, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, octave. So here's the riff. And that all could very well be Phrygian minor until he does the fill, which is. So he doesn't put the minor third, which is G, in there. He puts the major third, which is that G sharp. So that's the difference. If it was true Phrygian, you would have, but you have a major third. So this next song is by the Scorpions. It's called Sails of Charon or Charon, or I don't know how you pronounce it. Anyway, this is another one that's cited as being a Phrygian song, and it kind of goes between both. So the riff goes like this. So mostly that's in B. So if this was Phrygian, which it starts out to be, you'd have B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. So the root, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, octave. But then at the end it goes to this D sharp, which is the major third. So that goes into the Phrygian dominant mode. So that would be B, C, D sharp, E, F sharp, G, A, B. 1, flat 2, major third, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, octave. So hopefully that clears up any questions anybody would have regarding Phrygian minor and Phrygian dominant. Clearly the internet is pretty confused because they lump them into being the same, but they have very distinct and different sounds and different usages. So if you haven't already, become a patron. Subscribe to our Patreon channel, patreon.com/Rhinebeck School of Music. We'd love to provide custom content for you. We'd love your support.